Let's continue our study of the book of Revelation. We come to chapter 21. Now, this is when the news gets really wonderful. God's brought the judgments. Jesus has brought the judgment. And now we have the new heaven, new earth. You know, the first person to mention this is the prophet Isaiah in the 8th century BC in his Isaiah chapter 65. He spoke of the new heaven, new earth. And here now John sees it. Verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. There's no longer any sea. There's no longer any separation by the oceans to separate the lands from each other. And he says, I saw a holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. Remember in John 14 when Jesus said in the first 3 verses, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. Now, if it were not so, I would have told you. And then he says, I come to basically come to prepare you to come and be with me. And here's his very promises. When Jesus says, I prepare a place for you, what place is he preparing? It's the New Jerusalem. It's what he's been preparing in heaven in that dimension, comes right out of that dimension into our dimension. And this was basically the home that Jesus Christ will reign from and that we will be in. This is paradise. Verse 3, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the tabernacle, that is where God's going to reside, is among men. And he shall dwell among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be among them. Wow. And he's going to wipe every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no longer any death, no longer any mourning, crying, or pain. The first things have all passed away. And he who sits on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. And that word new is not new chronologically. It's not chronos. It's the word kainos in the Greek. It means something fresh and brand new, something you never experienced before. And he said, right, for these things are faithful and true. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega. Here's Jesus speaking. The beginning and the end. And I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of water and life without cost. Boy, it takes you back to John chapter 4 and the woman at Samaria. He who overcomes shall inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. Remember in 1 John chapter 5, John explains exactly what it means to be one who overcomes. He says, who overcomes the world? Basically, those who have placed their faith and trust in Jesus Christ. Well, then in verse 10, and he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven. Now, this is that city that Jesus prepared. Some say that the New Jerusalem is really the church. Well, either way, because the church, we're going to be in the New Jerusalem, and that's where we're going to have our condos, or where we're going to reside and receive our assignments and go out from there. Now, he describes this with these great high walls with 12 gates, and 12 gates, 12 angels, and the names, those are written on these gates, and the sons of Israel. And it has all this list, and it tells you about the size. Verse 16, cities laid out as a square. Its length is as great as its width. It's measured, the city, with a rod, 1,500 miles. Its length and the width and the height are equal. This is either a pyramid or it's going to be a cube. You remember in the First Kings, we described that the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and the temple of God was a cube. When you put the whole thing together, from the tip of Florida to Maine, and in this New Jerusalem, 100 billion people could fit. So there's going to be plenty of room for all of us. He describes the beauty of all these stones. We just get regular pure light. This is stones, this light in this new heaven, new earth is going to have tinges of all of these beautiful colors. And then what I love the fact, it says, and in the daytime, for there will be no night. Its gates will never be closed, and they shall bring the glory and the honor of the nations into it. And nothing unclean, no one who practices abomination or lying shall ever come into it, but only those whose names were written in the Lamb's book of life. All the others have been judged, cast into outer darkness. Their separation, their chosen separation from the presence of God. But we, in the presence of God, God's presence will be with us. Beloved, this is our hope. This is why we get up each morning. You're on the winning side. And this is the new heavens and the new earth. You have in chapter 21 the statement of it existing. Chapter 2, you're going to see the experience of it. We'll pick that up next time.